Well, hey there. Welcome back to the Over the Top Show. I am your host, the Sauce Boss, here on the brand new Over the Top Network. This is a happy Wednesday morning if you're listening on YouTube. If you're watching the live stream, it's Sunday night. And I've got a very special guest here with me tonight for the third show in a row here. It is the handler of Samantha Voxx, the Fed head of Kingdom Come Wrestling, and the handler of many other characters. It's my buddy Jay. Jay, how you doing?
Doing well, getting ready for the last leg of this marathon here.
Yeah, I'm ready, I'm excited to talk about this one here because we're going to get away from e-fetting a little bit and talk about something that I'm excited for. We're talking video games. Specifically, we're talking wrestling video games, AEW Fight Forever, and the WWE 2k23 game, which I believe is coming out first. So Fight Forever has been in development forever. It should be AEW Taking Forever is what I would call it. It's going to be great, though. I have a feeling it's going to be great. Jay, are you a gamer? Tell me your experience with video games.
I'm an 80s baby, so I started off with NES, the original Mario. I remember the original WrestleMania with Hulk Hogan on the front ripping his shirt off. Like, it was that game there, like, you would get in, like, whenever you would get, like, in the lead with the power, like, your theme music would play. So I used to always, like, listen, hoping my theme was going to hit. Like, I was a kid, so, I was born in 86, so this is, like, 89. I'm 3 years old trying to play this wrestling game and trying to figure it out. So, yeah, I go all the way back. Big time, even though it's the same game every year, I buy Madden every year, playing a few leagues on that. Really excited for AEW's take on the wrestling video game to see THQ back in the fold.
Well, here's the game we're talking about here, the original WrestleMania on NES. This game was hard as shit. I had a real bitch of a time playing this game, but you're right, Hulk Hogan was the man back then. You could not do better than the Hulk. Let's skip forward a little bit.
I disagree with you. I was always a Savage fan.
No, I love Randy Savage. Don't get me wrong. Randy Savage is on my Mount Rushmore of wrestling. God, how long has it been since you played this game?
I played it on an emulator, I want to say maybe 5 years ago, and I was like, no, forget this. I'm going to go back to the modern games because, like, I couldn't win a match.
There he is. There's a Macho Man. 520 pounds. So this game is kind of garbage now. If you break out the old console and plug it in, it's 6'8". Is Hulk Hogan 6'8"? That doesn't sound right. I think they were generous.
I believe so, actually, because I think Billy Gunn's like 6'4", 6'5". I want to say Hogan's taller than him.
Really? Then if Hogan is that tall, how tall is Nash? I mean, Nash isn't a 7-footer, is he? Did you see Hulk Hogan jump?
Yeah.
He just did a box jump from the ring to the turnbuckle.
I know it's not very reliable, but Wikipedia has Hulk listed at 6'7".
Okay.
Like I said, that's Wikipedia, so yeah.
Did Hulk Hogan even wear red trunks at the time? He always had yellow trunks, right?
I think that was simply just because of capacity on the cartridge.
I suppose. So I do remember this game. It was hard as shit, but the game that I really liked was Tecmo Wrestling. Do you remember that game?
Yeah, that was a tough one too, though. Like, Tecmo Wrestling, like, takes me back because it was one of those games that was highly overlooked because it didn't have the WWF or the WCW name on it.
This game slaps, okay? This game was tight. And I remember that my character was, I think his name was Dr. Guildo or something like that. Am I wrong? Am I thinking the wrong game here?
No, I think that was actually the name.
He had a giant swing, and he would launch the guy. And you could just do it over and over and over again. I think he had an Argentina backbreaker. He was just his moveset was top tier. Let's skip a little bit. And the music wasn't bad either.
Yeah, Dr. Guildo was on there. Yes.
These are the jobbers. These are the guys that I never touched. Mark Rose.
I think my love for wrestling video games really took off in the SNES days.
See, and he picked him.
Like the SNES days.
This guy knows. This guy knows what's up. Why he changes? You don't change his name. It's gonna just be like Steve.
But like the SNES really changed things with WWF Raw, Royal Rumble.
Oh, we're gonna get to that.
Saturday Night Slam Masters. That's one for you when we get there.
So this one, it has the commentary at the bottom. This is just so far ahead of its time. It feels a little bit like Fire Pro. I don't know why I get that Fire Pro vibe, but let's see. Oh, I lost my. There he is. He's back. So what I was saying is, this feels a little bit like Fire Pro, but I know it's not.
Yeah, it felt like Fire Pro.
There it is, the giant swing. And giant swing over the rope to the outside. He's just beating the snot out of this dude. Well, I think we know who's going to win that match. This one also had Starman. That was like the unlockable end boss of the game. He's done it. He's finally done it. Okay.
Yeah, Starman was essentially Rey Mysterio with like a Sting moveset, pretty much.
Yeah. The next game I remember playing was Super Royal Rumble, I think.
There was not a weekend that me and my brother did not rent that from the video store. Like, we rented that constantly. Just because it had so many characters, so many elements to it. You know, it added the grapple system, and it was just such a step up from what they had done.
I mean, it really... Yeah, I mean, the music is good, right? The music is great. It's got a Royal Rumble mode where if somebody ran at you, you could hip toss out of the ring. So you could not run in the Battle Royal. You're gone if you do it.
Yeah, my brother and I would just stand on opposite sides of the ring and just like Irish whip people into each other and then battle it out at the end. That's all we would do.
Yes, sir. He better pick the Rumble. See, they know what's up. Difficulty. Yeah, that's probably smart. If you crank up the difficulty, if you move at all, they'll launch you out. You're gone.
Oh yeah. You would not understand how many times I got razor edged over the ropes.
Oh, if they're going to play... we don't have time for all that. We'll go ahead and skip forward here. Mr. Perfect, okay. And Tatanka. I played a lot of Tatanka in this game.
Yeah, Tatanka. Shawn Michaels I played a lot as well.
I don't think that was 2 minutes. These guys are coming in the ring quick. So this was the first time they had more than 4 wrestlers in a ring at once. I think it goes up to 8. But these guys that are running around, that's a dangerous game they're playing.
Yep.
They're just begging to get launched out.
I had a friend who was like all about trying to run and drop kick, and I'm like, okay, run at me, go ahead.
Right?
He's like, okay, bye-bye. And he's like, what do you mean I'm done? I'm like, I threw you out. You're done.
Yeah. It doesn't matter how much energy you got. If you just get caught, you're gone. These guys are taking it easy on each other, though. He's like throwing him into the rope. Knocking. Okay, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. I'm calling it. He picked Mr. Perfect, but he's not perfect by any means. Okay, so also on the SNES, what other games did they have? Super WrestleMania, and
Yeah, they also had there was a WCW game, I believe.
oh,
It was like Super Brawl, I believe. That might have been NES though.
I don't think I ever played that one. I was not a WCW guy back then.
Yeah, you stepped out on the Tecmo wrestling, so I'm gonna say Saturday Night Slam Masters was probably my favorite wrestling game. I don't know if you ever played that one or not, but
it sounds familiar.
You could either do singles or tag team, I believe, and like it was all creative wrestlers, but they had like they had one dude that literally looked like Giant Gonzalez. His name was like Titan or something like that. Literally looked like Giant Gonzalez to me because he had like the fur on him. And
oh, look at this! This is Street Fighter-esque.
Yeah, it was Capcom that made it, so it was right up their alley.
Oh, this is nice. I like this.
Very cartoony, very fighting game-esque.
This is Street Fighter. Was that Hager from Final Fight?
Yes, Hager was one of the main characters in the game.
I gotcha. Okay,
I was kind of shocked that we didn't see a Ryu or a Ken show up.
Uh-huh. Yeah, okay, so these are all the same sprites from Final Fight. That's what we're talking about here.
Yep. And it literally became a wrestling game, and it felt like a fighting game, but had the mechanisms of a wrestling game because you had the pins and the submissions and that kind of thing.
This is fun. This one looks like you could still play it and have a lot of fun with it. Okay. So, I've got, I can't think of it. Never mind. I lost my train of thought. After the SNES, then we get into, well, let's see. SNES,
Nintendo 64.
Super Brawl?
You have Nintendo's, Super Brawl SNES. It was what it was. It wasn't anything great. I played it because I was a wrestling fan, and I played every wrestling game I could get my hands on.
Yeah.
But it was not very fun. I don't feel like WCW really did much until the Monday Night Wars. Yes. And when the Monday Night Wars started, that's when WCW video games started taking off, like on the Nintendo 64 and PlayStation and whatnot.
Yeah. So this is interesting. They changed the perspective on the ring.
Yep. And that was part of the problem. It was hard to know where you were at.
It does seem clunky. How can you hit the ropes at an angle, you know?
Yeah. It was very clunky.
Oh, look, there's gold dust.
I think it was one of those things where people were like, "Oh, let's do something different," and they're like, "Oh no, you did something too different." Like,
right.
Come back to the box a little bit.
Damn, that was a hell of a move by Brian Pillman there. All right, so let's get into the real games here. This is the game that changed everything. I think World Tour was the first one.
Yeah, World Tour was the first one because it introduced some new characters. Like, it made the WCW feel like the faces, and then like everybody else, the world. It was versus the world, so the world were the heels. But it was one of those things, they were coming over, we were going over there. And it felt like talent sharing, before talent sharing existed.
Uh-huh. So what's most notable about this game is the game mechanic. If you've never held an N64 controller before, it's going to feel like an alien device. But it actually... it plays very clean. It is it's so good of a system that they're bringing it back with this new AEW game that's coming out. Fight Forever is going to use the same controls from these old THQ games. And the controls...
Which is part of why I'm excited for it is because THQ was like the top of the top. It was top tier.
It was so good that they made 5 or 6 consecutive games, and everybody bought every sequel that came out. It wasn't like, well, I'll skip this one and get the one after that. I mean, everyone was good. This one does look a little dated, though. Although a lot of what's here looks the same. This was the original one. It was like, damn, this is a very good game. It controls really well. But the step up, what was after this? Revenge was the next one. Yeah.
Yeah. Revenge is where it really started taking off. Because you had you had each of your title modes that you could go through and play and unlock people. You could go through the tag team and unlock Ming and the Barbarian. You went through the US and unlocked Diamond Dallas Page. Like, every title unlocks somebody new.
It's got a vignette and opening here.
Yeah, it's like the NWO, like mocking WCW. Can't remember, was it Diamond Dallas Page driving the truck, or?
Oh, I don't remember.
Or was it Sting? It was one of those two. It was Diamond Dallas Page or Sting driving like a truck into, like, trying to attack, or no, maybe it was Hogan. It might have been Hogan attacking WCW with the truck. Now that I think about it,
it sounds like an NWO move, right?
Yeah, and it was, this was the first time we had the NWO arenas. Like, they had their own little shtick with it. Like, I think it was sold out that year. That was NWO based.
So all of these games were good, and we're going to skip ahead a little bit here because there was Revenge, and then after Revenge there was WrestleMania. Then
WrestleMania 2000, yep.
WrestleMania 2000, and then there was No Mercy.
No Mercy. No Mercy, like, to this day, is still seen as one of the greatest wrestling games of all time.
Hey, here's Cody Rhodes holding it up going, we're going to make this game again. And that's literally all they need to do is just make the same exact game. They'll sell 1 billion copies of it. And the reason that it's so good, I mean, the series introduced a lot of new mechanics into video games that they didn't have before. Unlockable wrestlers, the ability to create your own wrestlers. They have female wrestlers. They have a money system where you can unlock new props. You can erase characters. You've got story modes. You can fight backstage. You can use weapons. There was blood in the game. It's an officially licensed product. It's got all the music, the videos, the arenas. It was just so complete. I still prefer these old games over the new one.
It was kind of the first introduction of, like, gimmick matches too. The ladder match, the hardcore match, that kind of thing.
Yep. You got that right. The part about it that is really nice is that you can learn how to play it in no time at all. Everybody's movesets are the same. The controls are the same. The finishing moves are all performed the same way. And
this button grapple and hit the stick to do your finisher.
That's right. Everybody taunts the same way. If your opponent has a better finisher than you, you can steal their finisher and use it against them.
What I really liked about it as well was it was the first one where, like, you couldn't be a cruiserweight and lift up a super heavyweight.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't always get your body slammed through. Sometimes you literally would try, and then, like, you would grab your back because you couldn't lift them up.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. They had... it was just a perfect video game. At the time, it was a meta game. You didn't even have to be a wrestling fan to love the game. You just had to be a video game fan. And I don't know that wrestling games have done the same since. This is kind of where it stopped.
Yeah, it was one of those things where they went to a more centralized consumer. They went to the wrestling fans. Whereas you had No Mercy appealed to strategy fans. It appealed to sports fans. It appealed to fighting fans. Like, there were so many different mechanics to it.
Yep. So I'm gonna drop one on you that you may not have seen before, and that is the Def Jam wrestling games. Did you ever get a chance to play these?
Oh, most definitely. Fight for New York still is one of my favorite games.
Right.
I was actually shocked EA was able to pull that off because the EA wrestling games were terrible.
Yeah.
Thunder, they were in the very much same vein as like Acclaim. They could not pull off a good wrestling game. And then when Def Jam came out, the story just hooked you in, like, the fact that you felt like you were in a movie because you had Snoop Dogg, but his name was Crow, and everybody, for the most part, everybody had different names because they weren't themselves. It was supposed to be a movie, like it was supposed to have a great story because it was that movie.
This part of the game it's got a flavor to it, right? It's very urban, but it's also very action oriented, meaning that it's not simulation style. It's not realistic. It's way over the top. And the music was really good at the time. Everybody listened to rap music at the time. And to have all of those rappers in a game at the same time, it was just cool. It was like, oh man, I'd like to check that out. That seems like a lot of fun. And a lot of people did buy it.
How many other times are you going to have Fat Joe and Snoop Dogg fight each other, or Fat Joe fight Suge Knight? Like,
right.
Or the 25 by the developers.
So, I'm not sure we're going to get a lot of gameplay here, but the game it played really well as like an underground fighting type game, but it wasn't Street Fighter-esque. It was a wrestling game through and through. It was a pure wrestling game. If you get a chance to play the Def Jam games, or if you just like rap music, give this one a try. Now, Jay, this is where I'm kind of at a loss, because this is the time in my life where I started having kids and I got married, and I stopped playing a lot of video games. So you can help me out here. I see in the chat Lexi is saying that she played WWE Crush Hour, which I don't think is a wrestling game. But after this,
Crush Hour was WWE meets Twisted Metal, so
yeah,
it was different.
So they just used the license, but this is not a wrestling game. The next ones were what? Raw versus SmackDown or Warzone?
Well, they had the SmackDown series, Warzone, Raw, and all that on PlayStation. Raw and Warzone was more of your Attitude Era summed up in a video game. It was TNA. It was all about Steve Austin flipping the bird, that kind of thing. It was the Attitude Era. Whereas you had like SmackDown 1, which was a good game for what it was. SmackDown 2, I feel like, is where THQ brought the PlayStation to life, because them and Ukes, it was the first one they made together. So you had a great story mode where, again, you had to play through the story to unlock people. After the end of the first season, it showed the scene where DX and it was the ministry or the corporation was feuding with Stone Cold Steve Austin, and Steve Austin showed up and wrecked Vince McMahon's car. So it was like you unlock Steve Austin, then later on you unlock Mankind or Mick Foley, and like you had to do different things to unlock different people.
This is very 2000s. For anybody who was an adult at that time, everything was, extreme, edgy, yep. Spiky hair with bleach tips and barbed wire tattoos and tribal designs, and everybody thought they were ECW at the time. In hindsight, it's very cringy.
It is, and that's why I said like Warzone and stuff was like that.
The best part about that period was that it was fun, though. Everybody wanted to have fun. People, it wasn't cool to be offended. So people did everything they could to be extreme. The extreme games got popular at the time. Everybody had tattoos. Everybody had piercings. Everybody wanted to skateboard and snowboard and, skydive and bungee jump, and it was all these things. It was just a lot of fun, and I think Zoomers will never understand what that period in history was. It was when we first had the internet. When we first started connecting with other people. We had MySpace, and Facebook wasn't even a thing yet. It was peak. It was peak pop culture.
Exactly. And then PlayStation 2 came around. It was PlayStation 2 was like the intro of your SmackDown versus Raw. And then it became more about the brand supremacy and that kind of thing.
I hear good things about SmackDown. Here Comes the Pain, or is it Bring the Pain? I mean, it's a good-looking game for
Here Comes the
PlayStation
Pain.
2.
Yeah, what they brought to the game was the interaction with like other people backstage. You would run around in first person view, find somebody and like attack them, or you would find somebody and talk to them and try to set up a tag team because you're looking for a partner because you've got to go up against the Generation X or something like that. Like you've got to try to. It felt more personal.
I see John Cable in the chat is saying SmackDown 2 Know Your Role was his favorite. He still plays it. So my question would be...
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Like, it was great.
From this point, this game came out in, maybe 2005? From 2005 to 20 years later, how much better have the graphics gotten? And I don't think they've gotten much better. Like, obviously they are better, but this is very lifelike.
Oh, it was. And I was actually having the conversation with my girlfriend the other day, and I was like, back when the N64 was out, I was like, graphics are never going to get better, and then they proved me wrong. PlayStation, Xbox came out, and I was like, oh, they're never going to get better. Then here comes the Xbox 360, the PS2.
Yep.
Oh, they're never going to get better. Here comes PS3. Here comes the PS4. Or here comes the Xbox One, and they continually they tweaked it just enough each time to immerse you in the world.
It's not as big of a jump as it was from NES to SNES, or from Super Nintendo to N64. I mean, those were drastic shifts in what was possible. To go from Xbox to the 360 to the Xbox One to the new Xbox, or go through the PlayStation series, there were marginal improvements. I still don't have the new Xbox because I can't justify, I know there are some people
the one thing
that
they really improved on was like the background and like the fans in the crowd, like the little details. I feel is what they're tweaking to make it feel more lifelike.
So then we get into the 2K series, and I know I'm skipping ahead a little bit here, but I don't want to run all night. This 2K series,
these are the 5 hours about just wrestling games.
Oh yeah. These are the games my kids first played. This was their first wrestling game. This is when now you've got licensed music from artists that have nothing to do with wrestling. You've got, maybe close to 100 people to pick from. I'm assuming you've got a bunch of locked characters. And from this point on, from, 2K12, maybe the first one? I don't remember the first one. But from 2K12 to the recent ones, not a whole lot has changed. They're just updating their roster every year. It's kind of like what EA has done with the Madden series. There's little bells and whistles that are different, but it's basically just who's on the roster, what's their ratings.
Well, I will say, after the debacle that was 2K20, them taking the couple years off really helped, because when 2K20 came out, it had no reason being released. There were so many bugs with it.
Yep.
I mean, you had referees sliding across the ring, like ropes stretching out to almost like the commentary booth. Like it had no reason being a game. It really didn't. And
Sure.
I like that 2K took the initiative to say, you know what, we messed up. Give us time to fix it.
Well, yeah, you're right. And we're fast forwarding a little bit more there before we get to 2K20. But I think there's a period of maybe 10 years there where you get the same game every year. Not for me, not a whole lot to get excited about. And why do I want to buy this year's game when I just bought a game last year and this year's game is not a whole lot different? Am I the only one that feels that way?
They banked on the showcase mode being different. They banked on, you get to play through Stone Cold Steve Austin's career. You get to be Daniel Bryan. You know the most upcoming one. You get to be John Cena.
The problem with that though is, what if you don't like John Cena? Which I don't like John Cena. So now I'm less likely to buy the game.
Yep.
I bought 2K22.
And, back.
And we can go ahead. We'll just go right by 2K20, and there wasn't one in 21.
Yeah. No. And I don't know why I told you 23 earlier. It was 22 I've been playing. You're correct.
Yes.
But it's one of those things like, bouncing back, you said getting excited, people getting excited or not for the new game because the showcase. That's where SmackDown versus Raw was superior because they had 3 different stories for you to play through. So they had an option for you to play different people.
Nice.
And that could be something they could potentially do in the future. You don't like John Cena, we'll get, this edition. They get the Dave Bautista edition, get the Rock edition, something like that.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, I mean...
And I don't know if they'll do that, but it's an idea.
So this brings us to where we are now. And obviously this game is beautiful, right? It's got everything. It's very polished. It's very representative of that WWE product. The announcing team is spot on. But what really sets it apart for me is the creative modes of the game. So you being able to create your own wrestler, put them in the game, and then share it with the rest of the world. I think you've been able to do that for quite a while. But now for me, it's like the driving part of the game.
And since they added the face, like the face scanning, where you can put your own face in the game, or if you're trying to create your Ife character, you can find a picture of your picture base and put it in the game, and it actually helps you create that character even further.
Yes. So that brings up, the connection here between e-fetting and wrestling games. At some point in the history of this game, I mean, there were no other wrestling games for a long time. WWE had the monopoly. Japan had some things, but they were really difficult to compare. So now you've got e-feds that are 100% based on the video game. They're using the game engine, they're using footage from the game, they're using the creative modes, people are importing graphics, and they're creating an actual show that you can watch, you can put it on YouTube, you can share the video. I've never been in one of those feds before, but the work is beautiful. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It's still unlike...
Now the problem is... A lot of people were using the PC version, and you could mod it. But when 2K22 came out, they put a patch out where you can't mod it anymore. You can't put your own music on there. You can't, you can't have intergender matches like you could with the modded edition and that kind of thing.
That would make me want to go back.
Where Fight Forever is going to. Well, that's what's going to make Fight Forever stand out is they do have intergender matches. So you don't have to mod it and you're going to have to for music, and there might be a way to do that, or you could just play the music for it to be heard, give everybody no music and play the music over it to be heard and that kind of thing. But, it's not that authentic raw feel.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. So let's go ahead and we'll move to the next game. So I'll go ahead and I don't know how much of this trailer I can show with before I'm demonetized or whatever. But this is the Fight Forever trailer. Come on, Tony Khan. This is not the trailer. This is their skit. Okay, we're gonna,
Like, I don't, has an official trailer been released yet? I think they've just got a little bit of like announcement and whatnot
for which game? For Fight Forever?
for Fight Forever. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they've got a lot of stuff to look at, but it feels like
Because I remember reading that they were trying their hardest to get a teen rating, even though they had like all kinds of blood with death matches and whatnot. So that's why it kept getting delayed, is because they were getting a mature rating, and Tony Khan's like, no, we want a teen rating. And the ESRB was like, well, you've got to tone it down a little bit. So they finally were able to come to a conclusion that, okay, now it's got a teen rating. And now I think I think they're going to hold off till probably All Out, I believe, or All In, maybe, will
this
be
thing
when they release it.
it keeps sliding, and I mean, so visually it looks just like the No Mercy game. It's going to control just like the No Mercy game. I don't see the hype meters around here, but it's got to be the same. You've got intergender, so that's good. You've got weapons in there, so that's good. You're going to have all the signature moves, all the wrestlers. This is pretty damn cool. How you can just wring the guy's neck with the chair. You can put a trash can on his head. Some cool stuff there. Fire extinguisher. What was the... Here's the thing. Oh, did you see this? They have mini games in this thing. Team A, 6-0. What do you think about this?
I haven't looked too far into that. I'm going to have to look into it a little bit before I have an opinion on it.
I mean, this worries me. This looks like a Dance Dance Revolution, like beat matching game. They've got what looks like a home run derby game. They've got what is this, like Mario Party? I don't understand what they're doing here. Maybe
honestly, that plays into the AEW stick, because they've had little content like that, on AEW.
It's interesting, but I'd rather have the game. You know what I mean? They're packing in all this stuff into it, but people just want a game. They just want to be able to play those characters. And now the game is so far out that they're going to have people in the game that have already been released from the company. You're going to have Cody in the game. He's gone. You're going to have, let's see, who else have they lost? Joey Janela and Marco Stunt and...
Sunny Kiss, I believe, is on his way out.
Sunny Kiss is still around so far. I would be shocked if they don't keep Sunny. But there's a bunch of folks, and there are going to be even more that leave this year. The longer they wait, the more outdated this roster is going to look. All of your current champions are not going to be in the game. They picked up so many WWE guys. They're working themselves into a corner here. If they don't get this game out soon, I don't know what they're going to do.
And so what's crazy to think about with it as well is, like, Cody's going to be in both games.
Yep.
He's already been announced for WWE. So WWE did it the right way. Anybody who was released, they pulled them. They pulled, Mercedes Moné. They pulled anybody who was in the game that's no longer there. Daniel Bryan was originally slated to be like part of the John Cena showcase. He's no longer going to be in that. Anybody that's been released, they've pulled from the game. So it's, they've protected their product. And I feel like, like you said, the longer this goes out, there's been rumors of FTR going back to WWE. So are they going to be in the game? Like, are you going to keep them in it if they're in WWE? So now you got Cody and FTR in WWE while they're on your video game. It's not a good look.
Well, I think the only thing you can bank on is that they're going to find a way to monetize it. WWE hasn't released a complete game in maybe 5 years. So on release day, you're going to get an unfinished game. You're going to wait for them to fix all the stuff that doesn't work right. And then 2 months later, you can play the full game. That's just how it's going to go. What I want to see are all the features they had in the previous game plus some new stuff. And you don't know for sure if you're going to get that. So is GM mode going to be in Fight Forever? Is it going to be in the 2K game? It better be. It better be, or I'm not going to buy it.
It was in 2K22, so that hopefully will expand into 2K23. So
yeah, 2K22, the GM mode was a lot of fun. It's the only mode that I play. The Creator Wrestler mode is really fantastic. So if you wanted Mercedes Moné, you can have her in the game. It was pretty wonky at first, but they did figure it out, and it's pretty beautiful. It took 6 to 8 months for them to get the game working the way that it was supposed to. Now it feels like, here's 2K23, here's the new one. This feels like to me that they just wanted to beat AEW to the punch. If they can get people to buy this game and invest in this one, they're less likely to buy that AEW game. And if that game is a failure, they may never do another one.
Yeah, and I've also heard rumors, now these are just rumors, that when it gets released, it's going to be day one on Xbox Game Pass, which could potentially help the product if you give it out for free at first. Just like when MLB The Show came over to Xbox, it was free, day one.
Huh, okay.
So a lot more games are doing that, especially if it's their first go. For instance, they just released another one. I can't remember who it was, but a game called Atomic Heart. It's been looked at, like people have been looking out for it.
Yes, yeah.
It dropped day one on Xbox Game Pass for free.
Yeah. I know the Forza game was like that too. Day one, Forza Horizons.
What that does is it makes you want to buy the DLC. You play it, you're like, oh, I like this. Then they take it off Game Pass. Oh, now I've got to buy it. But I really liked it, so I'm going to pay that 50, 60, 70 bucks to keep playing the game that I got so invested in.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really torn. If you're a wrestling fan, if you bought these games, you've been burned before. There are games that just didn't deliver. And then there are games that were surprising successes. You've got an opportunity now where you've got two very high budget games coming out at the same time, and you get to choose the better one. Me personally, I like the controls of the No Mercy brand, which is what you're going to get out of AEW Fight Forever, and I'm more of an AEW guy. But 2K23 is so polished, and they've been running the same format for so long that you kind of know what you're going to get, just with some small changes. There's no risk there. It is what it is. You're going to have War Games matches. That's the only difference, I think. So, what do you do? Which one do you buy? Jay, what are your thoughts?
I mean, it ultimately depends on what you're looking for in a game. If I'm not a huge AEW fan. I am a casual AEW fan. But I'm still going to check out Fight Forever because the mechanics look great. It's got the intergender matches. So I thought, hey, I could run Kingdom Come house shows on AEW Fight Forever and just have fun with it. And then, with WWE, like you said, it's a more polished game. They, like I said earlier, they admitted they messed up with 2K20, took a year off, brought 2K22 out, and it was so much better. So they're actually paying attention, and now they've got competition again. It's not like Madden where hey, there's no competition for us.
Yeah.
We are the NFL game. Or 2K with NBA. We are the basketball game. So it's one of those things where now you've got to be like, oh, there's a new kid on the block.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to at least, new kid comes into college, freshman comes in and pushes the senior for a position on the team. He pushed him for his starting position. That's the new kid on the block. You've got to give him look, you can't just write them off.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I mean, competition is a good thing. That's it's always a good thing. You're going to get better choices when there's more than one game in town. So that's what we're getting here with these two games. I don't know if I'm ready to reinvest with another 2K game after the last one. Maybe I'll wait until Steam does a sale, or they drop it down to $15. I see John Cable in the chat saying that he just wants a game that'll let him run a Fed. Well, you're not going to be able to do it with this game because you can't do intergender wrestling, from what I can tell. That makes it really tough. And you've got to deal with John Cena and Logan Paul and Bad Bunny. So I don't know. I'm going to wait and see on 2K23. If people tell me that it's very good and that the GM mode is sick, I'll probably cave and get it. But otherwise, I've waited this long for Fight Forever. I feel like they owe me a game that was promised to me, and it had better be amazing. If it's not amazing, anything less would be a massive disappointment, and it's going to not only hurt their gaming division, but probably hurt the entire company. The stakes are so high for them. It's got to come out this year. If it doesn't come out this year, people are going to give up on it. That's how it feels to me. So that's my take. Jay, why don't we wrap this thing up? I know we could talk about video games for another 2 hours, but give me your final thoughts. Where do you think we are with the state of wrestling games, and what do you think you're going to do?
Like you said, competition's a good thing. I'm going to give both games a look, especially, I do have an Xbox. If it's on Game Pass, I'm definitely going to check it out day one, see if it's any good, see if it's worth buying. Like you said, with 2K, you know what you're going to get, pretty much. But you're right. If that game is delayed another year, Tony Khan, they've already lost money a little bit, so they've got to recoup that money somehow. So it could be releases from the company. Hey, we can't afford your contract because we just sunk millions of dollars in this video game that hasn't happened yet. Or it could be, hey, we've got to cut down to smaller arenas. We have less tickets. We're not making as much money now. And, video games, whether it's NFL, whether it's wrestling, whether it's NBA, your business rides on that a lot. And if you're not putting out a quality product, people are going to let you know about it. And that's exactly what they did with 2K and WWE. They were like, we're not buying this crap anymore. And that's what made them change. We were able to, as people on the internet, we were able to bully people into changing Sonic, to look more like Sonic in the movie. So it's one of those things. Tony Khan's got to get this game out. He's got to work with THQ and say, hey, we've got to get this out. With it being your company, and this is my gripe with Tony Khan, one day you've got to step out of being a fanboy and say, hey, this is my business now. It needs to work.
Yep. Well, amen to that. AEW promised us the game that we've been wanting for 20 years. Maybe they deliver it to us. It's certainly not the GM Booker that they released for iPhone and Android. That epic piece of shit is not what we signed up for. They promised us a great game. They're losing money until they sell a copy of it. WWE is still making money on their previous products, so they have some options. What I expect to see is that AEW releases this game. It's got bugs, it's got problems, it's not perfect, but they immediately go into development for the next game, and the next one is going to be amazing. That's what you got with the WWE game with WrestleMania 2000. Very good game, but No Mercy was an amazing game. I think that's what you're going to get here with Fight Forever. And 2K23 is going to be a solid game as well. So it's a good time to be a wrestling fan. It's a good time to be a gamer. And it's a good time to be in an eFed that runs your product on these platforms. maybe it'll drive more people to our hobby. I mean, that would be awesome to see people say, "Oh, I wish I could do like an online federation with my own create a character," and then all of a sudden they tap into our channel, or they find a fed on Twitter, and they find Kingdom Come Wrestling, and they go, you know what, this is pretty damn cool. So the more that we adopt the technology and the different platforms and mechanics, I think the better off the hobby's going to be in general. But for everybody who's watched the show and stuck around this long, thank you. I appreciate you. Thanks for coming around to the Over the Top show. We've done a little bit of over the top gaming this week, and maybe we'll come back. We'll do a little bit more here soon. So I appreciate you. Thanks for sticking around. Have a happy Wednesday. Be excellent to each other, and we'll see you all down the road.